bridges, roads, the schools, town hall, and fire department, and a host of other items I can't recall at the moment, but
DPW.
it seems to me, DPW garage, right? It seems to me that embodied in that whole list is the challenge that we face in the long haul, and trying to create a timeline where these things fit, both from the point of view of when to do the jobs, what gets displaced in the process if there is displacement, and how it fits into an overall capital plan, and kind of try to lay that out a little bit and take a good look at, what we might want to be focusing on, because if we don't, then we're back to firefighting again. Everything on that list will just get pushed out and never get done until something totally breaks down and we're forced into doing it. I mean, the wastewater is in that situation too, because sooner or later the DEP is going to slap an injunction on the town associated with waste issues, specifically around the pond. It's got nothing to do with commercial development. It's got to do with
The public health.
public health.
Right. And then we lose control.
Right. Then we lose control, and then
Who knows what the
not
cost
only
would
that,
be.
then we have to do something
Have
about
to
it.
do
on
it,
top of
lose
it all.
control.
So I'd look at the broader picture and maybe pull out the infrastructure report and maybe have a discussion about that. And if not completely that evening, at least schedule it in a future meeting, have a discussion, and kind of take another look at it. Then we've got...
We do this periodically. Before the infrastructure, we had FUMP, if you recall, FUMP.
Right.
That was another good one. And again, same thing. If we take a look at that, and that goes back, 10 or more years, I think you'll find that, other than the bachelor school, most everything is still on that list. It was at the time, it's a reuse of the batch when we were talking about New Swan Pond School. And, and this facility here, where we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars right now on repairing it because we can't afford to replace it. So it's a lot of, I've been sitting here for a number of years, and we've been talking about a lot of the same projects for a long period of time. And again, it comes down to dollars and cents prioritization. Can we get by with what we have? We have been able to, but again, we're spending some pretty good money on some pretty poor facilities. And the Band-Aid approach sometimes is the only approach because, it's leaking right now, so we can't afford to replace it.
Right. But my opinion anyhow, it all goes back to the wastewater project. I mean, we have to see how we can generate revenue for the town. Ultimately, it comes back to that project. I think that's how we generate the revenue, increase the commercial tax base. And also, I think what we need to be able to communicate to the public is that this project also takes care of issues related to all the public buildings and the schools, because if we're thinking about at some point in time there's a need to replace middle, high school, or rehab those facilities, I think it'd be a waste of money to rehab, redo a septic system, and then come in with wastewater, and it's a wasted cost for the septic system. We can save that. Or if we move forward, we don't have to worry about replacing it. The septic system, the sewer system comes in, takes care of that need and that cost associated with it, and we're done with it. Such as all the municipal buildings in town: fire, police, library, senior center, this building right here. One man started.
I've added the FUMP to the infrastructure review.
That was an awful name.
October town meeting, we're going to be forced into taking a look at our energy budgets. And it's pretty clear at this point. There is, I think you reported the school has made a list of capital items that they're interested in. So there are some things that we should at least look at associated with October town meeting. And then the entire budget process, which, not only do we want to get it kicked off sooner, but we've had some discussions about the overall dealing with early April town meeting and our inability to bring things together because we don't have the state information firmed up, or it comes at a very late time, which causes us to do some knee-jerk reactions in terms of putting a final budget together. So I don't know whether that's a charter issue that we have to bring up to try to restructure
When town meeting is
town
held.
meeting and town election. I mean, we could drag town meeting out to the end of April safely.
Does that really help?
Well, it helps a little bit, right? But it would be totally unfair to have town meeting after the election, because all the work is done, and then there's a change on school committee, change on Board of Selectmen, and, you know, the presiding group may have different views of what the priorities are. So it's something that we just can't, you know, we could extend by adjourning to a date certain at the end of April. We could do that. The only hit we take there is the requirement at that point to have a quorum. We could do that, but that's only 4 weeks. There's some communities now that have got their meetings pushed out until June. And so waiting for final information. Just something to talk about.
In order to effectuate a charter change, though, generally it's a charter review committee, charter commission. I mean,
We're
it's
talking
actually
about
it's a
long
long,
range.
drawn-out process as far as, you know, looking at the way everything that's within the charter. So, I mean, we're overdue for that. We're supposed to do it on I forget, every 10 or 15 years. I think it's every 10 years, which we haven't done for a long time anyway. And from a practical standpoint, as the chairman pointed out, we can always just adjourn to a time, date, and certain. And require 150 people. But that's really, if that's what we're doing, to effectuate a needed change.
But from a strategic planning point of view, a charter commission has to be formed or reformed.
Formed and elected and.
Right, the whole thing. So, you know, these are the kinds of things I think we should touch upon at this meeting and determine whether or not we want to schedule something or shelve it or what. But
There's just so much information that we have to get out to the public that I'm not so sure that they're willing to absorb. Not that they're not capable of it, but it just takes so much time to become so well informed. I think more or less what we have to do is get enough information out there to get the confidence level of the public up, so that when the elected boards, committees, and appointed commissions, you know, come together on an issue, there's a comfort level out there whereby they feel as though the homework's been done. And I think that's where there's a disconnect right now, is that we're not at that point yet. Because we tend to have near unanimity on issues and get our head handed to us in other venues. So it's, whether it be for an override or issues such as
you know,
the wastewater.
sadly, it's almost it's at the point where until you present it to town meeting and to an override election, and it loses once or twice, that finally you got people's attention. It's sad that it happens that way, but if we look back at any of the major projects, you know, with the exception of, you know, the Hillview and things like that, which were you know, funded by other means, we usually go through 2 or 3
cycles in order to get it to come to fruition. And with that comes lost opportunities and generally increased costs. You know. So, you know,
What other?
One of the things that I was thinking of in regards to what we were all just speaking of is, I don't know if we've already do this already, but I'd like to see a map of our entire debt service.
That's available.
It is, like the entire thing,
Mhm.
an easy to read type of version that has every category on it, no matter.
I don't know how easy it is to read, but it's all.
Well, I'm just saying, put
It-
everything,
it's-
put everything on one chart.
There are 2 schedules. There's one for exempt debt and one for non-exempt debt.
In
Joe-
relation to that,
Tony has it.
I think, you know, we were on the right track starting last year, a couple of years ago, when we started this debt stabilization fund, which is, again, exactly what we're talking about, is looking as to when some projects are falling off, so when can we add them on so it has the least amount of impact on the taxpayers.
Well, is there any way we can keep a running, I know we probably do this,
We do,
but is
yeah.
there any way we can keep a running tally of when things are gonna go and just kinda have a chart where we can just
It exists.
check
It's
it
there.
out?
It exists.
It does?
Yeah.
Yep, it's there.
I you
never
know,
seen
what
it.
probably doesn't exist, but could be easily generated from it is just a summary.
So I think, I think that would be a lot, that would be an asset to the town, just for the people of the town to be able to see when certain projects are falling off and say, oh, we can afford this new school now, or now in a couple of years I'll be able to vote for this override if the Board of Selectmen doesn't do anything stupid between now and then. So I think it would be kind of a valuable thing to the townspeople to actually see that in black and white, just a chart of when things are going to fall off and where things are going for the town. I mean, I haven't personally seen it, but I believe you when you say it exists. I just think it would be quite a thing to have it available in black and white, easy to read English, right on the website where people can see it. And we can kind of have a running tally of, I'm not saying like a countdown like they do with the federal budget, but just somewhere we can see it.
Sure. Any other?
Well, and also the benchmark study that was done, I know there's a negativity out there regarding the benchmark study, but I think this town has invested some of money, put this study together. There's a document out there. I think that needs to be looked at. If there are department heads or departments that have issues with certain items, come in and express what their concerns are, show us where they can correct some errors in it, but I think that needs to be put to use instead of on a shelf collecting dust somewhere. Seems to me that there's a lot of things that happen in town such as that just are on a shelf somewhere that are not utilized after money is expended. There's a wealth of information in that document. I think it could be put to good use. It may help guide us.
And going to a point, I guess, of that, I'm at where I am, where I'm working right now. I get to hear a lot of things that other towns are doing, and I heard that Groveland has actually commissioned a commission that they're looking at. It's kind of a neat idea, and it seems like something that we could probably do. We could probably charge the Financial Advisory Committee to do. They're taking a look at all of the different things that the state has enacted over the years that would help the town that are underutilized. Things like different types of relief for a new startup business in the town, and if somebody has to build a road, some kind of a tax relief to give them a little bit of time to get the road built to lead up to their business or their development. That'll give them a little bit of time and they'll slowly build on. It's just a committee that's looking at different things that the state has enacted over the years that are underutilized and that nobody seems to know about.
What about all the things the state has enacted that's cost us money?
Exactly.
I think that
But
list
it's
is far greater than the dollar
But
figure.
that's true.
Part of the problem there is that, we have a division within the state auditor's office, the division of local mandates, which, and Joe DiNucci I consider a good friend and great Democrat, but, I think all too often the legislature does enact programs which does have a financial impact on communities that Proposition 2.5 specifically states that if that's the effect of the states to pick up the tab, and that hasn't been done for, how long has it been in effect now, 25 years or more? So, I think maybe the Division of Local Mandates is looking at things a little too broadly and not specifically enough to see what the impact of the legislation has been. And that's been a pitfall, because you look at things from whether it's a mandates from the DEP or what used to be the old DEQE or Department of Education in relation to special education, all of these mandates and programs that they say you have to have, is incurring costs in the community, and then the associated costs because of that mandate hasn't been necessarily picked up by the state. Well, don't get me wrong, the state has been extremely generous to cities and towns over the years to increase their local aid. It still falls short, because until there's some sort of major reform as to how we deliver services here and pay for those services, other than real estate bills, real estate taxes, we're going to continue to feel the impact, and we're going to be continually told no. So it's,
I completely agree with you, Steve. It's just different things that I heard of that the state has enacted a few things that would let us attract some business into town without the sewerage and